Hi, y'all. Welcome to my Understanding Value Reappraisal, a theory that is based on AC et al.'s work, and I have a couple other um, articles that I want to talk about in here. So, the basic idea of value reappraisal is helping students understand the why for themselves. Like, why are they doing? Instead of telling them why this is so important, we need to help them figure out why it's important. So, helping students reevaluate their understanding of the importance of the academic tasks that they're doing, while maintaining the rigor of the academic assessments of the standards. So we're not lowering our expectations, we're helping students adjust their attitudes towards the assignments to help them better focus, to help them better understand why this is so important so that they can get to that deeper cognitive learning and focus on mastery instead of just focusing on getting the grade. Um, so these are task interventions. I think we've talked about other interventions. These are new and different ones. All right, so task value messages these are based on faculty or student services helping students understand the relevance of the assignments for their lives, kind of talking them through um, this is the kind of the telling them, right? Explaining, the knowing how to do the thing and the usefulness of the thing and the pride and ownership of knowing how to do the thing, to help students understand, right, that they're going to attain this knowledge, they're going to use this knowledge, and this knowledge is going to be intrinsically valuable, which is going to make it more fun for them to do and and turn into a more lifelong lesson, hopefully. All right, then so that's task value messages. Then there are, of course, task value activities. Students should define their own relevance. So instead of us telling them, this is going to be important for you because you're going to be a nurse and you're going to need to know how to do these things or whatever, students have to explain why this is going to be important to them. So they can do this through pre-assessment reflective writing. Before they do the assignment, they can write out the benefits that they see for themselves of this assignment and why it's going to be important. So that's really cool. And they can, in the process of that pre-assessment reflection, they can look at their future careers, visualize themselves as a nurse and thinking how important it is to know how to measure out a milliliter so that you don't kill people. These things are important, right? So to visualize themselves using this knowledge in the future can be really, really helpful. But it's also important and could be useful for them to write out pros and cons. So what are the benefits of knowing this information? What are the benefits they're going to gain from completing this assignment? And they can line out, and it can have to do with their careers, it can have to do with showing off with their friends, like whatever. How do students see this as beneficial to them? And then they also have to kind of take into consideration the cons, like what are going to be the problems with this assignment. And so in the Safian article from 2019, they kind of talk about the cost of the work, because for every yes, there's always a no. If you say yes to doing this assignment, then that means you must say no to other things. And so students kind of have to balance out, is the cost, the cons, right, going to be worth it? Right? I mean, are they willing to pay that price to get the benefits? And so helping with all of this will hopefully help them adjust their attitudes, right? Students need attitude adjustments. All right, so their cognitive affective responses, attitude adjustments. We want them to understand what their attitudes about this particular topic are, right? And how this affects their motivation, and then how can they regulate their attitudes to improve their motivation. So if you're, and this works for faculty as well as this works for anybody really, right? If you understand that cleaning the kitchen is going to make you feel better in the long run, then that might provide the motivation to go clean the kitchen. And if it doesn't, right? Then you might start to think about what are the benefits of cleaning the kitchen. Or if you're in a meeting and you don't want to be in that meeting, you might stop to think, okay, how is this meeting benefiting me? What are the good things that are going to come out of this? So try to focus, try to find that positive attitude instead of that negative attitude. All right, so if students can understand their attitudes and why they're important and think about how to regulate them, then they can practice self-monitoring so they can review. If you're stuck looking at an assignment or a task or a job that you just really are struggling to find the motivation for, then you can think about it and go, huh, okay, what would make this better? Like, how can I make this a positive experience for me? Because obviously I need to get this done. My life is going to be better once it's done. Once I learn this, once I complete this, it's going to be better. So, what can I do to fix my own motivation? So, when students know how to self monitor their attitude, they can use those regulation strategies, adjust their motivation, and then they can turn around and realign both as necessary as they go through life, as every task is going to have a different amount of intrinsic interest. So these are their strategies. All right, I was looking kind of at I was looking for sort of sources that said they had tested this and found that it did work, found that it didn't work. I want to say that one of the articles talked about motivation and saying that they thought that it would work. It works, but only short term. So this is something that we kind of have to be reminded of from time to time. We kind of have to go back and think again, okay, why am I doing this? What is my, how am I feeling about this? But in my process of looking for other research, I found an article by Brock, Bank, and Feldman from 2019, and they talked about the cognitive load theory. And basically, they said really there's two things that are happening. All right, first of all, your brain can only hold so much. You can only engrave so many things on your brain, right? It's just the way it works. And so you have to be careful when you're presenting information and you want people to be able to take it in. You have to be careful in how much you give them, especially if you're giving them new material. New material takes a long time, it takes longer to process and really solidify in your brain. So if you think about any professional development training you've gone to or workshops that you've gone to, and you just, when you walk out the door, you're just exhausted and overloaded because they've told you so much stuff that your brain is really just struggling to process it. It's the same for students. So you kind of do have to be aware that the brain, right? The brain has limits and the brain needs rest and the brain needs time. Um, but they said that that can also be impacted by the emotion. If you're feeling anxious about something, or if you're feeling stressed, or if there's something really emotional happening in your life, it is going to impact whether or not you can retain the information that you're trying to learn. No matter how much you're interested in learning it, it's going to be more difficult. And so we need to be aware of those things. But in the end, they also focus on changing those attitudes and emotions, right? If you have a negative emotion because you're being called to do something that you don't want to do anyway, right? Then chances are you're not going to learn it very well. You're not going to do it very well. You're not going to be very motivated to do it. Whereas if you have the opportunity to do something that you think is going to be useful, it's going to be fun, it's going to be great, you're going to love it. It's going to be easier for you to take in that content, and it's going to be easier for you to complete that task. And so your emotions really matter. And they said you can't not have emotions. Like, we need our emotions to drive our motivation. So you don't want your students to come in and just be completely emotionless. Emotions are important. All right, so that is what they found. So there are some good signs that value reappraisal could be very helpful, but you do also have to realize that there's more to this than just an intervention. You're not going to be able to just intervene and save every student. There's just more. So be thinking about the brains. All right, these are the references that I looked at. And thank you. I'm so excited that I got this opportunity to do this. And I don't know how to stop recording.